Hey guys, this is Michael with Quiet Lawn. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to give you an update on our mowing setup. It has changed a little bit the last couple of years, but not much. If you remember, we were primarily running push mowers, which I prefer. But we, for different reasons, one mainly being to make things easier on our guys, we ended up going with some of the Ryobi riding mowers that I'll show you. But we're still basically running the same setup. We're running our little Priuses behind me here, where our guys get 45 miles to the gallon. We run one-man crews when we mow. I found that's a lot more efficient. I did some videos a couple years ago, if you want to, on a whiteboard, showing you why that's more efficient and why you have a lot more wasted time when you have two people. And if you're doing a lot of stops, you're doing like smaller lawns like us, which are average 5,000 square feet, why it makes more sense to have one-man crews. So I'll go ahead and show you guys the inside of the Prius. I haven't been to the shop. I haven't opened up these, so these are going to be in the state they are of our employees using them. So it could be kind of messy, could be unorganized, but we're going to find out together. But let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, first thing I'll do is I'll show you these the inside of the Prius. In my last video I said this was our second Prius, but I don't remember if the engine, no, I think we blew a head gasket on this one. I think the head gasket's blown. So this one's actually out of commission. We're shrinking down mowing anyway, so we've kind of reduced to one crew. We still run a second crew a couple days a week, especially if we have rain. And I think Tony just pulls the trailer with the van. But this one is out of commission, but we were running two mowing crews and now we're down to one. But these are pretty identical. We switched to these a few years back from an Isuzu box truck. It's just night and day difference as far as maintenance, as far as fuel economy. That Isuzu NPR, I think maybe got 8 or 10 miles a gallon. These things get 45. Just the issues you have, people learning to drive a big truck or pull a trailer, a big trailer, they have issues getting in and out of places. They have issues bumping into stuff when you're driving an 8-foot wide box truck. So these have just been a lot easier to train employees on. So this is our Prius. We basically hitch these up to 4x6 trailers in the back, and that's what we use to mow. Let me show you the inside. It's probably messy. When I got these, I bought both of these cars from another big commercial landscaping company. They were selling like 20 of them. I bought like 2. They already had like 260 or 270,000 miles on them. So they were at the end of their lives. But these are, Priuses are very good cars, and I think they're ranked the #1 most dependable vehicle, even over a Honda Accord over these last few years. So just very dependable. And I've had issues with that one, but we did get a good life out of it. For the $2,000 I paid for it, it lasted me a good 4 years, and it was well worth the money. This one's still running strong. Let me show you inside here. Do need to clean it up. The guys are supposed to clean the cars at the beginning of each week, so it's Friday, and it's been raining a lot this week, so you can see there's just mud all over it, but I'm sure they'll get that cleaned up beginning of next week. Inside, just very simple. I put seat covers on everything, try to protect everything. We keep coolers obviously in each vehicle. I don't do ice. I think ice is a big, unless keeping an ice machine at your shop or having the guys stop to get ice, I think that's a big waste of time and money. So we actually use refreezable ice packs, just the cheap blue ones that are like, maybe like 10 inches long or so. We just use like 3 of those, and we keep them in our little freezer in there, and the guys use those during the day, and that keeps the waters very cool. And then you don't have to worry about getting ice every day or having a clean out cooler, stuff like that. In the back here, you see it's pretty empty. I can see the seat covers. We did have a seat cover on here. I'm guessing they've removed it at some point, so you can see that seat is filthy. So probably years of stuff leaking through that seat cover, or putting wet equipment in here. But it is what it is. This is for mowing. I would have felt bad to buy these had 260,000 miles on them. I would have felt really bad to buy a new vehicle like this and, beat it up, or one that had a lot less miles. So, I knew these were going to be vehicles that were going to be getting dirty from the beginning. In the back, you can see the guys just keep their blowers, and that's where they store their batteries for the day. You can see our spray can for, we offer a add-on service to spray weeds in the beds. So, you know, that's what they use for that. That's a great add-on. If you don't have that with your mowing service, I highly recommend it, because it can basically double your profit margin for each job and only add maybe 5-10 minutes max to the stop. So, you know, if you're making $10 $10 bucks profit on a mowing job, and you know, you add this on, you might, you know, that mowing job might take you 30 minutes, but this might, you know, make you another $5 or $10. So it really helps maximize our profit with our mowing operation, and that's how we can generate, you know, $700-800 plus per day, you know, just a normal 8-hour working day with our one-man mowing crews, because we try to maximize profit and we have very efficient routes. So that's the vehicle. That's the Prius. You know, nothing special. Good little cars. You know, even though they had high mileage, you know, we got nice clean wrap put on them. I think I paid maybe like $900 a piece to have. It's not a full wrap, but I had these graphics put on, like a partial wrap, and I think it was like $900 a piece. So, you know, it makes them look nice and clean, especially when the guys wash them. I'll take you in here, show you the mowers. I already showed you that one. This is our backup mower, our second mower. Now this is what, you know, Tony will use if we have extra days of mowing that our main mowing person can't get to. But you know, that's kind of the second mower now. Our primary trailer that we use for mowing is this one right here. It's just a little 4x6 trailer I got from Lowe's. You know, we had 2 of these. I think these trailers were only like $700, $800, $900 at the time. The mower we've been running for the last 2 seasons is this Ryobi 42-inch zero turn ZT 480EX. Everybody laughs when about the videos with these Ryobis, but I tell you, like, the reason I went with them is, one, you can find these at the, I don't know what you'd call them, like these liquidator type places that liquidate like brand new tools. I don't know the exact word what you'd call those, but you can find mowers like these and these brand new that are like overstocked from Home Depot for like $1,500 to $2,000, like all day long. They come with the only downside to these is that they come with lead acid batteries, because like I said, these have been, this 48-volt line from Ryobi. They discontinued it a year or 2 ago, but they've been making this line for, let me turn this light back on with a motion sensor. They've been making this line for like 10 years, probably more. So it's just very proven. You know, when we went back a few years ago, like even the Ego zero turns and all the other zero turns were pretty unproven. You know, they were pretty new. So, and they also have a lot of bells and whistles and, you know, extra things that just end up breaking, like their panels, you know, their display panels and stuff like that. And these older Ryobis are just bare bones. So, you know, they don't have all that. They don't have the fancy display. They basically just have like an hour gauge and buttons and switches. So, this mower, so we went with this mower, but you know, it had lead acid batteries when I got it. The problem with lead acid is they don't have a lot of life cycles, so you can't charge them nearly as many times as you can a lithium battery. So, you know, I think we bought this last year, the first part of last year. I bought it brand new from one of those liquidator places. Like I said, I think I maybe paid $2,000, maybe $2,500 at the most. And that was to have it delivered to me. And, you know, it had the lead acid batteries, and I think we ran it for about 3 months before, you know, those batteries started to, what happens is over time those batteries start to lose capacity. So, you know, whereas you might get a full day, running day, like in the beginning, you know, then it starts to shrink down. And I think by the time we swapped them out, you know, we were only getting about 2/3 of the day done, and then the guys would have to push mow. So at that time I took the lithium battery that I'd already swapped out with one of these, the original Ryobi 30 that we got, the other one, and I put it in this zero turn, and that battery has worked fantastically ever since. It's made by a big battery. It's not a very big one. I think it's like a 60 amp hour battery, and it's you know, it goes all through the day. It's just a 48 volt LiPo 4 battery from Big Battery. But let me tell you my experience with this mower so far. We probably put 400 or 500 hours on it last season, and we're probably close to that this year. It might even be more. I want to say this machine has at least 800 hours on it. But I haven't, knock on wood, haven't had to replace a single thing on this mower. You know, when I had my mean green stalker that I paid $17,000 for back in 2017, which was still a good machine, you know, that, and they got a lot more expensive than that after that, but I probably put 1,100 hours on that thing, and I had to replace several blade motors, several controllers for the blade motors, probably some other parts that I'm forgetting. But with this Ryobi, or all these Ryobis, I literally haven't had to replace anything. There was one of these tractors, the first one we got, that probably had well over 1,000 hours on it, that the steering, it got hard to turn, so I tried to replace some gears in the steering column to fix it, but it was still functioning. But it was like a $50 part. So, you know, like I said, a lot of people laughing at these, like, oh, that's not commercial, you know, are you using these, you know, crappy Home Depot brand Ryobi? I tell you, I have had no problems with these Ryobis, and you talk to people all day long that have problems with their Greenworks mowers, their Mean Green mowers, their Ego mowers, you know, or whatever brand they're using. You know, these things are proven, they're solid, and like I said, they're 48 volts, so they're a standard voltage, so you can put, you know, you can kind of bring your own battery with you. You don't have to use the batteries on their platform, so it's not like 58 volts or 60 volts or some odd voltage. Like I said, get a LiPo 4 battery from Big Battery with a 10-year warranty, and just, if this machine craps out, go spend $1,500, $2,000 on a new one and put the battery in it in about 2 hours, and, you know, that battery keeps going with the machine. I don't have to buy a new battery and do all that stuff. But yep, this Ryobi Zero Turn, I like it. It's lightweight. You know, it does a good job cutting. You know, obviously it's not, you know, you're going to have some sacrifices. It's not going to probably be as strong as the Greenworks or some of those commercial mowers, but we don't really need that for what we're doing. We're not cutting hay fields, and, you know, we're not taking on the kind of customers where we're having to cut 3-foot tall grass. That's just not our market. But it's been very solid, very good mower. Barely fits in this little trailer, but it does fit. And, you know, it's very easy to pull with the Prius. I do like these smaller trailers like this. Like, I didn't want to have to start pulling a trailer again when we were just push mowing. We would put a little, like, cargo carrier on the back of the Prius and put the push mower up in that. I would prefer that, but, you know, since we're using a ride mower, we had to use a trailer. But these little 4x6 trailers are just so easy to maneuver. If the guys get stuck or if they have to turn around, you can easily just unhitch it and spin it around with your hands. It's just not very heavy at all. So, and it's easy to pull. You know, the Prius has no problem whatsoever pulling this thing. You don't even know you're pulling anything. So just a nice convenient setup for that. We're still running. That's kind of funny. They're running a 12 amp hour battery on a stick edger, but that's pretty heavy. But that's way too big of a battery for that. But if they don't care about the weight, neither do I. But we're still using Egos. I'm basically using all the hand tools that I've had for the last several years. Like, there's no reason for me to buy new ones. These Egos, man, I love Ego. I do love Ego. I love their stick tools. I love their push mowers too. But I mean, I've had these Ego tools for probably 7 or 8 years now. Like a lot of these stick edgers and stuff like that. We still use them. They still work great. So I'm going to use them until they're gone. The only thing I have to replace on Ego is the batteries. So I know some of their newer stuff, maybe people have more challenges with, but these old rear motor trimmers and edgers and multi-tools, like, these things are solid, man. They're still going strong. Still running the Cat string trimmers. I like these. The main reason I'm using them is because I have a ton of batteries for them. Like, they are good. What I like about them is they're a lot lighter weight than the Egos. They're very lightweight. They do have a lot of power, so they are very powerful. The only downside to them is they just don't have the longevity of the Ego. Like these, you know, we might go through one a season or something like that, which still isn't bad. And I can get these bare tool for usually 100 to 150 bucks. So not a huge investment, but yeah, definitely not as good. You can see that flex right there. They make them, I don't like that. I wish they had a solid shaft, but they make this where you can, to ship them, where they can ship it, you can bend that shaft, and when you assemble it, you got to put in these screws, which might just need to be tightened, but that joint right there seems to be an issue and seems to wear out. But overall, good trimmers. Like I said, they do the job just fine. And I've got a ton of these Cat batteries. Cat's the same company as Crest. These are basically Crest, but I've got a ton of these batteries. You can see we got our string there. I was using Vortex string. It looks like Tony's maybe bought something else. I've not used that before, but I guess if that's working fine for him, more to it, but more power to them. I prefer rotary Vortex. It's a really great string that I've always used, and we had really good luck with it, especially with our grass types. Push mower, we have a push mower for smaller yards. For the main setup, we just use the Ego. I don't remember which one this is. They're discontinued now, but it was the one that has the speed, kind of like the Toro, like it adjusts the speed with your walking pace, like personal pace. It's like their version of that. Doesn't work great, the personal pace. Like I wasn't too happy with it, but I bought these, at the time I bought these, they were kind of on clearance, and I think I bought, just to buy a 12 amp hour Ego battery was like 500, 600 bucks. But if you bought at this time, I think I was able to get the mower with the batteries. At the end of the season, I was able to get 2 of them with 12 amp hour batteries and chargers and everything for like 600 bucks. So it was kind of a no-brainer, buy just a battery by itself, or get a free mower and charger with it. So that's what we use. They do work great. I mean, this is literally the second season we've used these. I've got one at my house. Like, I'm sure these have hundreds of hours on them. We haven't, I don't replace parts on these Egos. So, if there's nothing that's been replaced, no transmissions or anything like that. So they're still working great. That one's still working good. That's another one. I think I bought 3. I have one more at my house that the guys dropped off the trailer because they didn't strap it down, and it busted the cover off of it, and it looks terrible, but it still works great. The self-propel, everything still works. So, yep, that's what they get used to push mower. Yep. What else can I show you guys? Charger. We got when we switch to when you do convert these over to lithium, you do have to switch to charger because it's a different kind of charger for a lithium battery. We got these also from Big Battery, and I think this is a 15 amp charger. So the guys just plug these in overnight here. They just plug them in overnight, and that thing, I think it probably charges this battery in like 5-6 hours. But yeah, that's our setup. Got a spare tire. I haven't, luckily, knock on wood, we haven't had any flats on our trailers. But like to have as many things for the guys as they need to make sure that they're able to get through the day and not have any issues that's gonna stop them. Let me turn this light back on, the motion sensor. All of ours, like I said, we got a mix of different stuff. I've got some Crest mowers that we were given by Crest that we use also. This one's a dual blade. I've never personally used it. I'm sure it cuts fine. My only issue with Crest is, the height doesn't go below probably 2 inches. So it's really high for 2.5 inches is really high for our types of grasses. I've just had transmission issues where the transmissions don't last a season. They'll go out once or twice a season. And I haven't had those issues with Ego. As far as cut and all that stuff, they do a great job, and they have a lot of power in my experience. But, I've been out of the game for a couple years. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff out there that's very impressive. I'm sure they probably have new stuff out that's very impressive as well. But yeah, here's the Ryobi 30. But yeah, that's basically our mowing setup. The guys charge their batteries overnight here, and they're ready to go in the morning. So, we've got several battery banks set up here. We've got a dedicated 100 amp sub panel here that has each of these outlets is on a separate 20 amp breaker. So, that's kind of how we spread the load over all this stuff, so that when all this gear is charging overnight, it doesn't trip any breakers. Like I said earlier, you know, the guys use these refreezable ice packs in their coolers. Got this little chest freezer here. I'm not sure what this plastic is for, but got the refreezable ice packs here. Got popsicles for the guys when they get back in the day. Inside our office, which I did a video on last week, you can see we got snacks for the guys, electrolyte packets, stuff like that. Just whatever we can do to make this really difficult job easier. But I hope you liked your mowing setup. Please leave your comments. You know, I want to hear some funny stuff about these Ryobis. You know, I understand, and I understand where people are coming from, but we've been very pleased with them so far, and I've been very impressed with the longevity and the performance of them. But thank you all for watching. I hope to hear from you all soon. Have a good day.